So as we were saying, talking about these key things that you have to see in the scripture for who Yahusha is, and some of these fundamental foundations is, has Yahuah come down on the earth before? Is this something new that he has done, coming down on the earth? Because I know he came, you read Judges 2. Read that, you'll see Yahuah speaking. It says the Malakam of Yahuah, or the Malik of Yahuah. And he speaks to the children of Yashar, telling them that they've broken his covenant. Who is that? How could they break his covenant? But more precisely, if you go to Abraham, the time of Abraham, Genesis 18, let's have a quick read and have a look at this. So reading Genesis 18, let's have a look at what it says. And Yahuah appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself towards the ground. And listen to what Abraham says. And said, My Yahuah, if now I have found favour in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort you your hearts. After that you shall pass on, and therefore are you come to your servant? And they said, So do, as thou hast said. And Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes upon the earth. And Abraham ran unto the herd, and fetched a calf tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, and he hastened to dress it. And he took butter, milk, and the calf which he had dressed, and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. And they said unto him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of thy life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door which was behind him. Yahuah. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, I am waxed old. Shall I have pleasure, my master being old also? And Yahuah said unto Abraham, Wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I of surety bear a child, which am old? Is anything too hard for Yahuah? At the time appointed I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. So who have they just been eating food with? Yahuah. So Yahuah has come down on the earth before, Yahuah. And that is not the only time where he's literally come down and he has revealed himself to his servant. So it's not a new thing.
No.
I believe you had a scripture as well.
Yes. It's in Exodus 24. And it says, Then went up Musha and Aaron, Nadab and Abiahu, and 70 of the elders of Yasharal. And they saw the Yahuah of Yasharal, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and as it were the body of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Yasharal he laid not his hand. Also they saw Yahuah, and did eat and drink. And the Yahuah said unto Musha, Come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone, and a law and commandments which I have written, and that thou mayest teach them. Yahuah. Nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new under the sun, so it's clear. So Yahusha, who is Yahuah, come in the form of a man. It's nothing new.
No.
But that now is was the body prepared for Yahuah, for salvation. That's the difference. Yada Yahuah. So it's crystal clear. You have those two scriptures we read, and the other Judges 2, as we mentioned, and there's other scriptures also. This is just to show clearly what the scripture is saying, not what we are saying, myself or Brother Kemp, but this is what the scripture is saying. Yada Yahuah. And we hope these things will become clear to people. Look into it for yourself. And again, this is why we believe what we believe, in line with the word. Yada Yahuah. Yada Yahuah. So obviously we've just covered those points about Yahuah coming down on the earth. But then if you move and we look at something else, like, why actually can Yahusha not be a man? What in the scripture shows us clearly that he can't be a man? And we're going to look at a few things. We know that a man has certain limitations. Whereas Yahuah has no limitations. But let's just look at something in the scripture. And the scripture shows us clearly that Yahuah never sinned, nor knew any sin, but all men have fallen short of the esteem of Yahuah. This is what the scripture says. But let's just have a look at this. So it says, 2 Corinthians 5:21. What does it say? For he oh gosh, I can't even read. I think we're just tired. It's been a long day. So let's read 2 Corinthians 5:21. For he hath made him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that he might be made right, the righteousness of Yahuah in him. 1 Peter 2:21. For even hereunto were ye called, because Yahusha also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps. So we talked about previously, Yahuah coming down in the form as a man, which is Yahusha, as an example for us to follow in his steps, how to please him. 22, it says, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. And a third witness on this, Hebrews 4:15. For we do not have a high priest. So here it shows clearly that Yahuah came in the form of Yahusha, the form of a man, in the role as a high priest, who must pray, right? Who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. And some people get confused with that tempted. Yahuah can't be tempted.
No.
So this is showing, meaning he's been tempted, meaning the enemy tried everything to derail him, but Yahuah cannot be tempted with evil. Yada Yahuah. And that's what it means. So we see clearly here that Yahusha had no sin, knew no sin, and Yahuah's word also clearly states that no man can die for another sin, as we touched on before. So he cannot be a man. It goes against the scripture for Yahusha to physically be a man. Yada Yahuah. I don't know if you want to.
So I got John 3 verse 13, and it says, and no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man, which is in heaven. So how can a man who, as we know, men like us, we're not omnipresent.
No.
We can't be here in Africa, in China at the same time.
Absolutely.
But Yahusha, while being on earth, was also in the Shamayim.
And that's clear, and that's why when you look into the scriptures, it's all given there to guide you, and that's why you've got to listen to and be led by the Ruach and not the teachings and traditions of men. Because that's where a little leaven ruins the whole lump. So we see clearly in that Yahusha can't be a man. Human sacrifice, all these types of things, it doesn't stack up with scripture. Yada Yahuah.